Hello and welcome back to Rock Cycle. I hope you're having a good day. Now, crikey, it has been a bit of a while, I guess, since I made my last video, but I feel like I'm saying that at the beginning of every video these days, so maybe that's the new norm. But hopefully as we move out of COVID and there's a lot more going on in the world of music, hopefully we'll return to a bit more of a regular schedule on this channel, but I guess I can't make any promises. So anyway, I guess you've probably noticed we've had a bit of news about Reading and Leeds festivals for 2021 in the past week or so, and that is number one, that they have confirmed that they are going ahead. Although ultimately I kind of feel it's not really up to them, it's up to the government not fucking up the coronavirus situation again, and it's up to the British public being sensible and safe and not spreading it around more than we need to. So I do see why a few people might be just a little bit sceptical that perhaps the festivals aren't actually going ahead. But anyway, I think it's reassuring to know at least that they are planning to go ahead and they're getting everything sorted out, hopefully. And you also might have seen that then led to Reading and Leeds festivals very quickly selling out, along with a few other festivals around the country. Now, I do think that Ticketmaster, again, it looks like was a bit of a pain in the ass for a lot of people, and a lot of people were waiting in a queue for a very long time for the website to then mess up and they couldn't get a ticket. So a lot of people are pretty annoyed with that. That doesn't surprise me, it's classic Ticketmaster. But I think on the good news side of that, at least, it really helps the industry out, the festival industry and live music in general. That industry has been really struggling over the past year. So that's a heck of a lot of money that's a heck of a lot of people, putting a heck of a lot of money straight back into that industry. So hopefully that will help support the industry for a little bit longer as we get through the last leg of COVID. So all that's got a few people, including myself, speculating who's going to be added to the lineup, what's next, what's new. Now, we haven't had anything official from the festivals yet telling us when the next lineup announcement's going to be, but I reckon we're probably going to see one in the next month or two as they've now got this all sorted out. They're moving ahead and they're going to be booking more acts for the festivals. So I thought this would be a good time to make a top 10 of acts that I think are likely to be at the festival. Now, I've done a few of these sorts of styles of videos in the past and we've got a fair few right, we've got a few wrong, and I think it's going to be hopefully, well, I guess the case with this. I'm not expecting to get every one of these right, but I reckon there's going to be a few there. I'd be very surprised if there's less than 3 or 4 of these artists added to the festival. Although that being said, I do kind of feel this year's is particularly hard to guess for who they're going to add to the announcement. Because like they've already sold out the tickets, are they really going to blow the boat, especially when they're probably running pretty low on money? Are they going to spend a load of money hiring a load of really big artists when they could just hire a load of crappy local bands that no one's heard of just to fill out the lineup for not spending much really? To be fair, they could probably not even add anyone else to the lineup because, well, they've sold all the tickets, why do they need to? But at the same time, I do feel like you've got a lot of artists that love to play live, that have been really missing playing live. A lot of them have got new music to promote. So I reckon you're going to get a lot of artists being really desperate to get up on this lineup. You may get some really big artists taking a smaller slot on the lineup than they normally would, or maybe they're going to negotiate with a festival that they'll take less money than they normally would because they just want to go and play live. And Reading and Leeds Festival is probably going to be their best chance this year to play to a big outdoor crowd for a lot of these artists. So with that all in mind, here are my guesses for 10 artists that are likely to join the Reading and Leeds lineup. I guess these are educated guesses on my knowledge of the festival, what I've seen people posting in forums, on Reddit and on Facebook, and my own knowledge of what I guess these bands are doing at the moment. But again, yeah, they're all guesses, don't go buying a ticket because I've said a band's going to be here. And I'm not going to be cheeky and say the Hunter because they have sort of self-confirmed that they're going to be in the next announcement for the festival, so we kind of know that already. I'm not going to claim to have predicted them, but I guess if you didn't know that, the Hunter are going to be there. So anyway, number one, I think Reading and Leeds have to book these guys purely for the meme, and that is the vaccines. Now, just think of like the free promotion they'll get from all the jokes, all of the newspaper articles and all the memes being shared about the vaccines being booked to play a festival. I've already seen a few of those about getting like hundreds and thousands of likes on Twitter and all over the place. But all jokes aside, the Vaccines are a class band. They're very staple British indie rock and they're very staple Reading and Leeds festival band. They've been playing there every 2 or 3 years. I think the last time we saw them was 2018, 2017, so it's been a few years since they've been at the festival. At the moment they're releasing a EP that's got a few covers of other bands, and they've also actually recorded a whole new album like way back near the beginning of last year. They haven't released that yet, so that's going to be coming out soon. It's going to get them back in the limelight, get the attention back on them. So I reckon if that does come out before summer, they're going to be wanting to do a bit of a tour, and I reckon they do want to be playing Reading and Leeds because like Reading and Leeds is like kind of like their hometown show. They've been there so many times. For number 2, I've got Wolf Alice, I guess the sort of alternative indie rock with aspects of everything from grunge to pop being thrown in there. Now, to be fair, I'm not entirely sure where Wolf Alice would fit into the lineup. I've seen a few people saying over the past couple of years that Wolf Alice are now on the headliner level, and personally I don't think Wolf Alice are quite headliners, but they have played the Radio 1 stage they've headlined at before. You know, there might not even be a Radio 1 stage there this year, and I reckon they're probably going to be higher up than that now, so I reckon they would have to be at least sub-headliners. And there's very little space left for that on the poster. But Wolf Alice might actually be a victim of their own success. They've got a new album coming out soon, I think within the next month or two. And if that album is particularly successful, it may like solidify them as headliners. If they've definitely solidified themselves as headliners, I don't really think there's going to be space to fit them on the lineup. But I reckon we could definitely see them being added there, second or third, because this album's going to be good. I'm sure the first tracks that would come off it are quite enjoyable. And it would also be good to see Reading and Leeds getting a few female-fronted acts high up on that lineup, because this year in particular they are lacking a bit. For number 3, it is the punk ravers Enter Shikari. They are another classic Reading and Leeds band. They tend to have played there every 2 or 3 years. They did play at the last instalment of the festival, but that was 2 years ago, so maybe we could see them come back for, I guess, 2 years in a row. But to justify that, Enter Shikari have just come off the back of their most successful commercially album. I know it's not been the most acclaimed by fans, but it's definitely their highest charting album. That justifies them having them back fairly soon, and it's certainly broadened their horizons. They'll appeal to a lot more fans perhaps than they did the last time they were at that festival. Like, this album's got everything from sort of like 1975-esque pop rock to sort of really heavy, really intense electronic-core that Enter Shikari made their name doing. And they are another one of those bands that always goes on about how much they love playing and performing live, so I reckon they would like to come back and play at a festival crowd just for the sake of doing it, maybe money entirely aside. For number 4, I'm saying Slow Tie. He's definitely one of the fastest rising British grime artists out there, although I guess you wouldn't really call him pure grime. He's got a few elements of sort of like American hip hop and even a bit of punk thrown in there as well. Now, he was on the 2020 festival lineup. A few people actually thought he was going to be removed from that because he did have a bit of a controversial year with the Boris Johnson's head thing and then the Catherine Ryan incident at the NME Awards, I think it was. A few people thought he was going to be removed from the lineup because of that. But to be fair to him, he did handle that situation quite maturely, and it did seem like a lot of people either, I guess, forgave him or just forgot about it and moved on, because he sort of haven't really heard much of the controversy about him again since then. And I think last week or the week before, he just released this new album, Tyron, that saw some really big collabs in there like ASAP Rocky and Skepta. That's really helped elevate him. It certainly was pretty well received. I think it did alright in the charts. I think that's another reason that they want to get him back this year, because he's not just rolling over for the sake of rolling over. He's someone who's done something interesting in the past year. He's got a load of new attention on himself. He's grown his fan base, so I reckon they want to get him back at the festival, even with a few controversies. Number 5 is Idols, with I guess their sort of hardcore indie punk or Tory punk, I guess I've seen a few people call it. They were another one that were meant to be playing at the 2020 festival, and I was really surprised that these guys didn't roll over. Because despite they're definitely not the biggest band out there, they do have a really, really strong, dedicated, almost cult-like following. Like, people who like this band absolutely love it and they go on about them all the time. They may not be the biggest band there, but they will definitely bring one of the biggest crowds across the weekend. And these guys have been playing all sorts of festival spots over the past few years. I think it's time they came to Reading and Leeds and they gave them a big high-up spot rather than on early on in the middle of the day or sub-headlining the Radio 1 stage like they're meant to. I reckon if we do still have the Radio 1 stage there this year, which we don't know yet, I reckon put them on just straight up headline it this year. They'll please a lot of people because there's not too many other bands out there that are like Idols, so having them really adds a unique factor to the festival. And plus, last year they had just released their very critically acclaimed Ultra Mono. Again, that's making them relevant. It's giving them something new to do since the last year's festival. They're not just rolling over for the sake of it. For number 6, I've put Declan McKenna. Yeah, you can criticise him and say he just sort of is a bit of a cliche, classic sad boy with a guitar kind of music. But I think it's a very oversaturated market, that, and he definitely stands out head and shoulders above the rest by quite a bit. Due to his like raw talent and his diversity, I think really shown in his last album, Zeros. He really stood out, he did a lot of unique things on it, and it was one of my favourite albums of last year. He was meant to be touring off the back of Zeros, but I think that a lot of that at least was postponed due to COVID, so he's had to reschedule a lot of his dates. So he may as well reschedule Reading and Leeds while he's at it. It might just not be announced yet. Fingers crossed. Here's another one. I've seen quite a few people that have been disappointed that he wasn't added to the lineup this year, and I would be surprised if, well, we get to August and he's still not there, to be honest. And these numbers are in no particular order, by the way. It's just numbering them for the sake of numbering them, I guess. It's not like who's most likely or to be there or who's least likely to be there. So with that anyway, number 7 I put Machine Gun Kelly. And he's had quite an interesting past couple of years as he's transitioned from rap into pop punk, although a lot of pop punk purists kind of despise calling him pop punk and punk because, yeah, he's not quite your classic pop punk, but certainly he's interesting, he's unique, and he's combining elements of those genres with his own music, or his more traditional music they made before, and it's making something unique, and he's standing out, and I think that makes him great for Reading and Leeds. It's seen him do a few interesting collabs. He's done quite a bit of Travis Barker and Youngblood. And I think this blending of genres gives him quite a bit of cross appeal across the Reading and Leeds Festival audience. It tends to be almost, I've seen like in the comment sections, a bit of a rivalry between the rock fans and the rap fans, but he's someone who has elements of both of those genres in his music, so I think he could please a lot of people. And even if you doubt him, he may just wander past this set and he may convince you to maybe try listen to a bit of the other genre, because there's good things in both genres. I know I was a bit like it in the past, being like, yeah, I only like rock music, all other music's terrible. But I think we all expand our horizons and all that cliche shit. We can enjoy a lot more music, and I think he's a great artist to introduce people to that, along with Post Malone, who's headlining. Number 8 is Architects, who have just released, I think, yeah, this week, depending on when I actually finish editing and releasing the video, their 7th studio album, For Those Who Want to Exist, who currently it looks like they might be on track to get to number 1. And in my personal opinion, they are one of the very few bands that are helping to keep metalcore alive. They're really pushing the boundaries of what can be done in metalcore, because to be honest, it's quite a dying genre. They do have a bit of a history at Reading and Leeds. They've played in the past quite a few times since they've been quite a small band, and they've slowly worked their way up the stages. So I think it'd be good to give them a bit more of a bigger slot this year. And to be fair, so far this year there's not really very many metal or metalcore or the sort of heavy bands in general added to the lineup. It does seem to be that, I don't know if the festival is planning on moving away from those genres, which would surprise me, to be honest, because the heavy genres do sell tickets quite well compared to the pop style genres. But so far we have seen quite a few heavy fans disappointed by the lineup because there's not very many heavy artists on there. And I think adding a band like Architects is not going to blow your budget. They're not a headliner, but slapping a band like that on the lineup will add quite a good bit of diversity to the lineup, and it'll keep a lot of people happy who may otherwise be looking at going to Download, which, well, Download's actually not happening this year, but maybe looking at going to one of the small metal festivals instead rather than Reading and Leeds is a good way to keep those sorts of fans happy. Number 9, I have Denzel Curry. Now, he was on the lineup for what was meant to be the 2020 festival, and despite having a little small place right down at the bottom of the festival, he's probably one of the artists I saw the most hype, the most buzz about in comments, that loads of people were really happy to see him. I saw loads of people talking about him, and to be fair, I hadn't heard of him before then, and that got me intrigued, and I've gone off and listened to him a bit, and I do quite like it. And it does seem so far Reading and Leeds are heading towards introducing more and more American rap to the festival. Traditionally it's sort of, well, over the past few years I guess it's been very British and, well, more grime rather than rap. But over the past couple of years you've had a few big names that are American rap, and you got a few already on the lineup. And he'd be another good one to add to please those fans, but again, Denzel Curry does have a good bit of cross appeal. I've seen a lot of like rock fans who have been very intrigued by him after he did that cover of Rage Against the Machine. He's helped bring fans from all sorts of genres. He's brought them over to him, and that's what they want from Reading and Leeds artists, I think, these days. You want someone that can appeal to a whole range of fans rather than just a particularly small niche. And despite not being a rock star or rock artist, he does sort of have that rock star attitude in those high intensity shows that Melvin Benn, the festival organiser, he really likes. He says that's what he looks for in artists these days. It doesn't matter about the actual music they're playing or the genre they're playing, it's about their attitude, it's about how they perform and the intensity they bring, and if they can put on a live show. And I think Denzel Curry definitely does have that sort of rock spirit which they're after for the festival. And lastly, at number 10, but by no means least, is Sam Fender, but I don't know if he's worth even talking about because he's probably going to cancel anyway. He did release his debut album, Hypersonic Missiles, 2 years ago now, which did combine sort of very British indie rock with sort of, I guess, a bit more American dad rock that's very Bruce Springsteen-esque, which made him very popular across generations. He's one of the few artists I know that had young people, I guess younger than myself, liking him, and also having like my 60-year-old uncle liking him as well. And while he hasn't really actually done that much since those 2 years ago to really justify his relevance as much in 2021, after he's trying to do his tour for Hypersonic Missiles, quite a few shows were cancelled for various reasons. That was a bit controversial, and everyone has made a joke about him cancelling his shows, and quite a few shows were then cancelled because of COVID. So he hasn't really actually properly toured after Hypersonic Missiles. So there's still that hype there. There's still people that did enjoy that album that haven't got to enjoy it live. So there's definitely still a lot of hype around them. A lot of people were excited to see him on last year's lineup when he was there. I think a lot of people are still excited to see him on this year's lineup because they haven't really had a Sam Fender experience yet. He's not one of those indie artists that's been around for years and years and years that everyone's seen 3 or 4 times already. So he's something new, he's something fresh, and he's sort of breathed a bit of life into the genre. So there we go, there's my top 10 artists I think that will likely join the Reading and Leeds Festival lineup. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know down in the comments below. There's plenty of artists I know that could have joined that I haven't included in this list. If you think there's anyone in particular that you think is almost definitely going to be there, let me know down in the comments below. I'll happily have a chat with you. I should add, because I do always forget to add in my videos, I just remember when I go through editing. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @rockcycle with an underscore. There'll be a link down in the description. But anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed watching. Hopefully you found it interesting and fun. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, the usual YouTube shit. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.